Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of our show. And I know I'm a bit late to the game on this, but we are going to talk about that Alabama boat brawl today. Um, Let me first start by saying I, in absolutely no way, condone violence. I don't think violence is okay, but what I do think is okay is standing up for individuals that are suffering at the hands of others. So I just want to start off by saying that. Like, I'm not saying that violence is the answer, but what I am saying is intervention is necessary. And what I mean by that is think about how differently this would have played out. Well, first off, let's rewind, and I'm just gonna like do a quick recap in case people are unaware of what happened. So what happened was these private boat owners in Alabama were parking their boat somewhere that it was not supposed to be. And the co-captain of a tour boat or something like that, whatever it was, um, first off, they asked them to move several times and they refused to move. And if you look at kind of the history, apparently there have been other incidents with this particular family, with this group. It was a family. And so the co-captain moved the boat or came out to move the boat or to talk with them. And there's a lot of videos, so you can go and check it out for yourself and see what happened. But there was a confrontation that occurred because he wanted them to move their boat because they were holding them up. They were holding up the progress, the process that they go through. And there were people on the boat waiting. And so the captain did get off. And if you watch the video, you can kind of see it play out. People are across the water taping, they're recording. And what happens is you can see the confrontation. You can't really hear it from across the way. You can hear some of it from some of the people that were on that side recording. And before you know it, suddenly violence just erupts. They start beating this guy up. They start beating up this individual. And this individual was Black and this family was white. And there this particular group that was on the boat, and I guess I'm not really sure about the town. I didn't really look into the town and see if it was an area that was a large Black area, an area with a lot of Black people or not. But there were a lot of Black people present at that moment, and a lot of them jumped in to save this man. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that somebody finally stepped in, right? Because think about how many times this has happened in the past or something similar has happened in the past and no one intervened, and how differently that turned out. And no matter how we want to spin this, whether we want to call these people violent or not, we have to acknowledge the fact that finally someone intervened. And we also need to acknowledge how differently this could have and probably would have turned out had these individuals not stepped in, had they not decided that, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. Think about how many times we have seen law enforcement. We have seen not just law enforcement, and I'm not saying all law enforcement is bad, and I don't want to say that. I don't want people to think that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, think about how many times if someone would have just said, hey man, don't do this, like another cop, right? Would have said, don't do this in particular situations. Or if when people saw someone getting beat up or jumped or something somewhere, or someone getting assaulted, if people just intervene instead of just recording, what would have happened? And I'm not saying don't record because we definitely need that. And I think a lot of times right now, people are like, oh, this is happening so much more often now. It's not happening more often. It's happening the same, possibly even less than it happened in the past. The difference is technology. We now have the technology to record these things when they occur. We now have the technology to show people this is what's happening. And unfortunately, being a brown person in America, this is a part of everyday life. You get followed in stores, you get harassed, you get hit, jumped. People have this happens. This is a part of everyday life that we refuse to acknowledge as a whole, or that society refuses to acknowledge. I mean, people are acknowledging it, but they're also sweeping it under the rug, right? So now technology allows us to not only acknowledge it, but hold people accountable. Even if people are not being punished fully by the law, or if people are not being fully punished. There's acknowledgement that this is happening. And that's what we need. And I think that this case, this situation is a game changer because now people are aware that I don't have to sit back and watch. I can intervene and help this individual. I can help stop this. And again, I am not condoning violence. I'm not saying violence is okay. But what I am saying is intervention is necessary. We have to be brave enough to not only record on the sidelines, because let's just be real, everyone is not that person who's going to be brave enough to jump in, to step in, to intervene. And everyone doesn't have that personality where they have the ability to intervene. We need people to record this. We need people to show the world this is happening. But we also need people who are brave enough and able and have the ability to step in and say that this is not okay and I'm not going to allow this to happen. And no one knows what they would have done in that situation. They know what they would have wanted to do. But I give applause. I give praise to everyone who did intervene because even if, and to me, intervention also means recording and acknowledging that this happened. Because again, this is something that we need to show the world this is happening. I know that here in America, we like to think that we are a diverse country, that we are open, but we are not a diverse country. We are not very open. We just like to tell ourselves that because that's part of that American dream that we believe in, that if you go to the US, you can live the American dream. But what does the American dream even mean anymore? Or what has it ever meant? Has the American dream ever been for everyone? American dream is not for me. American dream was never made for me. American dream was never made for anybody who looked like me. American dream was made for the individuals who have the power. And that's the way the United States works. That's the way everywhere works. But especially in the United States, we look at who has the power makes the rules, right? So now we're in this shifting of rules where people are tired of being stepped on. People are tired of being abused. People are tired of being told that they can't do something because they're a woman. They can't do something because of the color of their skin. They can't do something based off their personal religious beliefs, their gender, their sexuality. And people are standing up to the people who are not only telling these people that that's not okay, but the people who decide that it's okay for me to beat you up, to hit you, to choose violence because I disagree with you, because I don't like what you said to me, because I feel entitled, because I feel like you can't tell me what to do, even though you're doing your job. And I think that that is what happened here, is people decided they had enough and that they were not going to sit back and watch another man die at the hands of someone else. Because we can say whatever we want to say, but if we're being honest, this could have very possibly ended in his death, right? But it did not. What it instead happened, it ended in a big brawl. It ended in chaos, but it ended in a way where people were defending a person who was just doing his job. And that's what happens a lot of times. How often do you see that someone was just doing their job, just living their lives, just going to the store, just walking down the street, and then boom, something happens, right? And then we like to make that individual the bad guy. We want to make them the criminal. We want to talk about all of the negative things about them to shift that energy, shift that attention from the person who was actually the wrongdoer to the person who was victimized. And this was step one. This was a major step in let's stop doing that. Let's start intervening. Let's start speaking up. And not just about violence. Let's just start speaking up in general about all of the things that are going wrong. Let's talk about it. Let's have open, peaceful discussions when we are able to. But let's, again, remember, violence is not always the answer, but intervention is necessary. And I will never stop saying that intervention is necessary. We have to intervene as much as possible to prevent things like this from happening and to make people think in the future twice about this. Like the next time something like this happens, I truly hope that people think about this Alabama Brawl incident and really, really take a moment to say, okay, wait a minute, how did that turn out? It didn't turn out well for the people who were trying to beat this person up, trying to choosing violence as the answer to this person doing their job. And I want people to like take a moment and think, how is this going to turn out for me? Not, oh, I'm going to be in the right because I'm entitled, because I'm who I am. And I I I will keep this, I will stand by this no matter what, is that I think that this sometimes things have to play out the way they play out because that's the way to get the attention where it needs to be. And I think that this played out the way that it needed to play out for people to see how serious this is, for people to understand that this happens all the time. This happens every single day, but we don't acknowledge it. We don't talk about it. We don't discuss it. We discuss it for 5 minutes and then it is swept under the rug. We move on to the next hot thing. We move on to the next celebrity, whatever drama is going on. We move on to the next big lottery winner. We spend 5 minutes, our short attention span, and then move on to the next thing instead of continuing to discuss the issues like this that are happening and continue to happen. So please share your comments with me. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you next time.